Hey, hi there. Welcome to a lecture on Society of the Spectacle and COVID culture, which is, just kind of modern culture. so, um, I met Alex, your teacher, in middle school, actually. And so when she asked me to do a lecture for her middle schoolers, it was like, whoa, full circle. I can't believe it. Basically, today we're going to try to figure out what Society of the Spectacle is. It's so ingrained in our modern culture, but it's one of those things that if you don't know to look for it, you don't know that it's there. So, uh, so we're going to point out Society of the Spectacle, and then hopefully, uh, you're going to go from not noticing it at all to noticing it everywhere. And so let's get started. Um, Society of the Spectacle, as you can see in the top left corner, was written by a French guy named Guy Debord in 1967. So in the 1960s, uh, Guy Debord was a media theorist who was talking about things like magazines and newspapers and television, movies. These were kind of the media of the 20th century. But now that we're in the 21st century, our media has become a lot more sophisticated. We have cell phones, all these apps like Snapchat, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, everything. And all of these apps and things like that are media. They're uh, representations of things, um, and they are also society, right? We are communicating with each other, especially now, thanks to COVID, through media more than ever before. Face to face interactions have basically ceased, but because our media is so sophisticated, we're still able to have a pretty tenable society. So yeah, it's in 1967, we are talking about magazines. In 2020, we're talking about memes. It's all still Society of the Spectacle. And what I'd like to do is kind of bridge the gap um, between all this difficult text, this college level text, and the ideas that are in them, um, which I strongly believe anyone can understand if it's been explained in the right way. Um, so, just a quick question. Um, have you ever hung out with your friend where you're in the same room, but you're just looking at your phones, you're not talking to each other, except to like kind of roll over and show your friend a funny meme, and then you laugh, and that's kind of just how you've hung out. Most people, most young people have done that, and older people, they don't understand it. They're like, oh, that's not the right way to hang out. That's not how I used to hang out, when I was a kid. um, but it's the same thing as when I was like a elementary school, and when I was in elementary school when I was a kid, and I would have sleepovers with a friend, and we would just kind of play video games and like eat sugary cereal and just kind of hang out in front of the TV. And our friend's dad would come up and say like, that stuff just rots your brain, right? And I'm like, cool, thanks for telling me that. Awesome, thank you. So like looking at memes with friends is same different from watching TV with friends, like what I used to do when I was a kid. So don't let anyone invalidate the way that you hang out. Okay, society of the spectacle. We have our first slide here, and this is so the first chapter, and all you really need to read from Society of the Spectacle is the preface, which is right here, and then the first 5 points, which I have later on in the slideshow. So let's just look at this first sentence. I'll read the first sentence aloud, and we can talk about it. Oh yeah, this is going to be really dense academic language, college level language. So if you don't understand something that you see or I've said, please rewind the lecture video and play it back. And if you still don't understand it after the second or third viewing, write down your question, and I think we're going to have like a Zoom discussion later. So I'll be able to answer your questions to the best of my abilities if you have any. Okay, so the first sentence of this introduction says, but certainly for the present age, which prefers the sign to the thing signified, the copy to the original, representation to reality, the appearance to the essence, illusion only is sacred, truth profane. And so you're like, what? Like, what does that mean? And like, if you finish that sentence, like that 5-clause sentence, and you don't know what it's talking about, that's perfectly okay. It took me, about 10 tries in a conversation with my friend and professors to figure out what it's saying. And especially because we have these words sign and signified. And you're like, okay, I know what a sign is, but what does signify? Like, what does that mean? And so basically they're jargon from academic field called semiology, which is spelled Semiology. And so semiology is what I studied in college at UC Berkeley in my film studies program. And so like I was already kind of predisposed to know what this means because I went to lectures that clearly laid out what sign and signify are. And so I'm going to be trying to express college level material in a distinctly not college level way, and hopefully it'll work. Okay, so sign and signified. What are sign and signified? Well, let's try to piece that out. Okay, so first thing you think of when you think of a sign is probably a street sign, like a stop sign, right? So signification is happening with the stop sign. And so what is a stop sign? It's a sign. It is a literal sign made out of metal on the street corner that says stop in a very big red, you have to notice it kind of a way. And so that's the sign. What's being signified by it is a little more tricky in this example. So you might already have been able to guess that from the image right here, that what's being signified by the stop sign is the law that says at this corner right here, right now, you have to stop your car. You have to bring your car to a full stop because it's the law. So the sign is the stop sign, it's the representation, right? And the signified is the law, it's the thing that's being represented. Okay. So text is our society's most fundamental use of signification or sign and signified. So text is sign, right? You have these little lines that all each group of lines um, represents a sound, right? Like let's look at this word right here, text. We have four signs: t, e, x, and t, and so those signs represent those letters, those symbols represent sounds, right? And the sounds, when mushed together, t, x, and t, make the word text. And text means something. Text signifies text. Um, it's the meaning of the word. Okay, so um, so it's kind of it's so basic that when you explain it, it becomes very confusing, or it has the potential to be kind of confusing. Um, so let's look at an example of how text can be used to represent stuff. Okay, so here we have a very famous painting by the surrealist painter Rene Magritte. And surrealism is a discipline of art that uses realistic imagery in unrealistic ways to make the viewer rethink their assumptions about reality and see the world in a new light. So, here's a painting of a pipe, and underneath, and what makes this painting so famous is the text underneath it that says in French, "This is not a pipe." And you're like, oh. So what it does is it using text, it alerts the viewer to the signification process that's happening here with paintings, right? The common mode is you look at the paintings of the Renaissance and you say, oh, that's Venus being birthed, or that's the Last Supper, um, and you don't think twice about it. But when you put the text, "This is not a pipe," in the painting of a pipe, it makes you realize that all the other art that you've looked at is just a representation, right? Um, you can't smoke from the pipe, not that you should, anyways, but even so, it's just a flat image of a pipe that you can't hold or touch. It's not actually a pipe, but at the same time, it is a pipe. It's kind of confusing. So this kind of makes me think of. It reminds me of a story from my life. So um, when I was a hold on, when I was a when I first graduated from college, I my first job was as a after school teacher, and I just kind of spent my days outside, um, just kind of making sure kids were, not fighting, having fun, that kind of thing. And so I was, one day I was talking to these two kids and trying to, mediate an argument. And this one second grader comes up to me and she just goes, "Max, can you help me find reality?" And I was just like, "Yeah, okay. I'll do that as soon as I'm done with this. Meet me in the garden, and I'll help you find reality." And because I didn't know exactly what I was going to do, but I knew that reality could be found in the garden. So I finished mediating the conflict, and I found the girl Aviva, and I took her to the garden, and so there were these succulents and growing out of the ground, and um, above the succulents on the wall there was a giant painting of a pomegranate, and I like get down on Aviva's level, and I'm like, okay, so this succulent is reality. You can look at it, you can touch it, you can feel it, you can feel the moisture of the dew off of it. It is in our world, it is real. Now look up at the pomegranate. Touch the pomegranate. Is it round? Can you hold it in your hands like a pomegranate? Can you open it up and eat the seeds? No. It's just a representation of a pomegranate. So the pomegranate isn't real, the succulent is real, and that's reality. And she thinks about it and she goes, oh, well, I thought reality was just a bunch of people shouting at each other. And I'm like, no, Aviva, that's reality TV. And she goes, oh, okay, and just walks away. So, um, so let's look at one more thing. So sign is the representation, signified is what it's representing. Here's another example, and it's kind of meta. So this is something that everyone who has gone this far in the lecture has had an experience with. This lecture is signification, right? It's sign and signified. What are the signs? The signs are my voice, the slides. There are some YouTube videos. So the link that you clicked in Google Classroom to get to this slideshow and this video, everything about it, that's the sign. And what is it signifying? What's being signified is Society of the Spectacle, right? The ideas of the book are being signified in this kind of Society of the Spectacle-y way. I'm talking through my screen to you, looking at your screen, and what we're really interacting with is our individual screens. But at the same time, we're interacting with each other. I'm giving you a lesson through media, through the media of our phones or our laptops or whatever. So when the media and the meanings are interact with each other, that's called signification. And so now that we are all experts on semiology, right? Let's move on to something a lot more complicated. So tarot is a divination practice. Basically, it's a deck of cards, and each card has a different drawing on it, and the drawings all represent, some emotion or state in one's life. And tarot goes back really far. Like, apparently, it was invented initially by the ancient Egyptian, I guess, linguist who created hieroglyphs. So this is just pointing out that signification is basically as old as humanity, right? Cave paintings, that's signification. Tarot, hieroglyphs, cuneiform. Society is built around signification, and our communications with each other that isn't me directly talking to you, sharing the same space, um, that's sign signified signification. Um, right. So we should know what sign and signified are by now, representation and the thing being represented. And we're gonna go on to Society of the Spectacle really soon. I just wanted to point out that sign and signified are uh, what academics would call jargon. So, what is jargon? I use dictionary.com to give me to find definitions for things because it's really the most comprehensive online, as well as it has a thesaurus. So it's really useful for writing research essays or essays um, because the word that you know might not be exactly what you're trying to say. So if you just kind of toggle between the dictionary and the thesaurus, you can find the best word to describe what you're trying to get across. So I like the first and fifth definitions of jargon on this list. The language, especially the vocabulary particular to a particular trade, profession, or group, and language that is characterized by uncommon or pretentious vocabulary and convoluted syntax and is often vague in meaning. So, I have my own definition of jargon, which is jargon is a word that academics coined or made up to describe words that academics coin. And you're like, what? You're like, that is so confusing, Max. And I'm like, okay. Hold on. So, uh, so to coin something um, in academia means to assign a certain meaning to a specific word, like coin, like jargon, sign, signified. They're all kind of words that have a very specific meaning that you don't know exactly what it is until you've been told it by your professor. And so, what I wanted to point out about this jargon thing is that it is the primary gatekeeping tool that the university industry uses to keep education inaccessible to the working class, right? So, what does that mean? It means that the common wisdom is that you, when you graduate high school, you go to college, you get a degree, so that you can get a good high paying job and have a happy life. Um, but why do you have to go to college and get a degree in something to know what it is? Well, in academic text, you have a lot of jargon words and excuse me. So you have a lot of jargon words in academic texts, and the texts themselves will not define that jargon. They'll just use it, like what we saw in the preface. And the best way to get to understand the text is you have to know the jargon, and the best way to know the jargon is to go to your professor's lectures where they will explain to you what the jargon actually means. So, example from my life is in one of the introductory film theory classes that I took at UC Berkeley. We read this article by David Bordwell about fabula and sujet. And fabula is spelled the way you think it is, and sujet is, I'm not sure how to spell it at this point. And these are fancy Russian words where all they mean is fabula is the way a movie feels, and sujet is the chronology or the plot of the movie. This happens, this happens, this happens, this happens. And so, why do you spend this time making up these words, coining these words to define the feeling and the plot of a movie? Well, it's so that, people who aren't, deep in film theory don't know what you're talking about. And it um, makes film theory kind of like an industry. Um, so that's the kind of like cynical Marxist view of jargon. But on the other hand, it's really useful for shorthand, like to define, like you can just say this, that, or the other thing, and people who are in the know, people who are in your industry or academic field, know what you're talking about. So jargon is everywhere. If there's an industry or a field of study, it's going to have its own jargon. And to make jargon less or more approachable, I thought it would be fun to have some of my friends join us and they can define jargon that they know.
Take a look at your fridge and emulsions are everywhere. Some common examples include butter, milk, ice cream, salad dressing, mayonnaise, even chocolate. So what is an emulsion? A mixture of liquids that don't usually like to mix with the help of an emulsifier. So picture oil and water. They don't really like to mix together very well, right? Those two things want to stay separate. But if you add something like mustard, that parts of it want to kind of mix with water and parts of it want to kind of mix with oil, and the mustard can kind of hold those two things together, and you can mix the combination of oil and vinegar, which is mostly water, and mustard, create a smooth and creamy dressing that is an emulsion. So that's what it is. An emulsion.
Uh, so in sailing, there's this term called the tack. And the tack means a number of things, but there's the maneuver of the tack. And the maneuver of the tack is, let's say you have the wind blowing this way and you're sailing this way, and you do a tack, it means you turn it through the wind, like that. The nose of your boat goes through the wind. And we also say you're sailing on a tack. So if the wind's over here and you're sailing this way, that's called sailing on a starboard tack. And if you're sailing over here and the wind's coming this way, that's called sailing on a port tack. And the reason that it's called a tack is because back in the day, when people were sailing big square-rigged tall ships, I'm talking 17th century, 16th century pirate ships, big square sails, what they would do is they would take a big wooden tack and they would hammer it down into the deck and hold the sail down. And then you control the tightness of the sail from the other side. So one side your sail's fixed, the other side you can control how tight it is and pump it for some speed. And so back in the day, they would have these big crews, and when they changed directions like that, they would literally run over and yank up the tack and run it across the deck and tack it down on the other side.
Like a giant thumbtack?
Like a giant thumbtack.
That's awesome. Thanks so much.
That's a tack.
So that was my roommate, who is a linguist at Facebook now, but he used to work at a sailing club. Up next, we have a comedian extraordinaire.
What's up, everybody? My name's Jacob Rubin. I'm a comedy writer and performer, and I'm here to define for you a comedy term for this class or something. And the term that I've chosen to define is a term used in sketch and improv comedy called the game. And so when you have the game of the sketch, that is the thing about the sketch, about the world created within the sketch that makes it a little different, a little bit weirder, and that's what makes the comedy. So like the premise is, for instance, a band attempting to record a song, and the game is the producer and one member of the band are obsessed with having more cowbell. So that's like an example. So whenever you watch a comedy sketch, if you can identify the game of the sketch, and that's what about the sketch is making it funny. And once you have the game, then the process of both discussing and writing a sketch becomes so much easier. So the game is the thing that I've defined for you guys today. Hope this helps.
It does.
So, the farther you get into anything that you're interested in, any topic, the more likely you are to come across jargon. So, I do a lot of music production, I make music, and there's some jargon associated with that. Like, one that you might have heard is BPM, which means beats per minute, which is how fast or slow a song is. Another is frequency, which talks about how high or low a sound is. One is dynamic, which is dynamics, which describes how much the volume of something changes over time. So if something is the same volume all the time, then it doesn't have a lot of dynamics. But if it goes really loud and then really quiet, then it has a lot of dynamics. And another one is DAW, or DAW, which stands for Digital Audio Workstation. So that's any of the computer programs that you might use to make music, like GarageBand or Pro Tools or Logic or Fruity Loops or anything like that. I use Ableton Live. So those are some of the jargon words for music production.
You're gonna find a lot of acronyms as jargon in your life.
A good example of jargon, a lot of examples of jargon can be found in Marxism, which is a philosophy created by Karl Marx in the late 1800s. And one of the jargon words from Marxism is communism, which is a vision of economy that works for everyone, in theory at least. And then another jargon word from Marxism is the proletariat. Those are the people who work generally. And the bourgeoisie, which is a French word that is hard to spell, and it is it refers to the people who own things, like Jeff Bezos, and landlords, and I guess that's about it. So the more you know. Back to you, me.
Thanks, me. We have one more video from another one of my roommates, epidemiologist. So this one is going to be a little corona-y.
One.
Hey y'all, so we're here to discuss jargon. And one bit of jargon that I want to clarify, particularly during these great times, is a raise. You might be hearing
A what?
a raise, which is really just the speed that something occurs, such as disease, over a period of time. You guys have to hear about things like infection rate, incidence rate, equal distance, all these very technical terms to describe one very simple thing. That when something occurs over a period of time, you have to use essentially the time that occurs and just happened. That's a rate.
So a rate is the time that something is occurring in, and
So the number that's been occurring in over a period of time.
oh, so it's a ratio.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Okay. And that was jargon. And so the thing that I kind of want to highlight about that is that jargon isn't just for academia. Like, you know, plumbers have jargon, woodworkers have jargon. There's, white collar jargon, academic jargon, blue collar jargon. Basically, anything that you can be an expert on, there's jargon for, and experts know that jargon. Like Buddhist jargon, critical theory jargon, philosophy jargon, all these things. So I thought it might be fun for you guys to get out a piece of paper and list 3 to 5 words of jargon that you know. Could come from history, English, math, or something that isn't school related. Something like skateboarding or hiking. That's a word that is, what's the definition? particular to a particular trade, profession, or group. Something that you know that someone else might not know. So 3 to 5 words of jargon that you know from your life. Okay, so now that we know what sign, signification, jargon is, we can go back to this preface. Oh, and a quick thing about prefaces or introductions to academic books, like nonfiction books in particular. If you're writing, if you have to write an essay, you can go to the library and look for particular books that that should be about what you're talking about. Like if you're, like for example, I wrote a research essay on Nazi propaganda in high school, and so I went to the library and I found a biography of the propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels, um, and then a bunch of books around it are also about like on the shelf itself are also about like you know, that kind of thing. So you can like look around, open the book to either the preface or the introduction, and when you read the preface or introduction, and if it speaks to what you're trying to make your argument about, an essay is just you making an argument. Just check out that book because it should be helpful in fleshing out your argument. Okay, so, but certainly for the present age, which prefers the sign, representation, to the thing signified, what is being represented. And then he goes into more words to describe this. The copy to the original, representation to reality, the appearance to the essence, illusion only is sacred, truth profane. And so this is about this is actually, you can see down at the bottom here that this is a preface stolen from The Essence of Christianity, which is a book that was written in 1847. So, what I just wanted to point out about this is that these ideas have been around for a while. And just as society has gotten more and more modern, the truths that these people pointed out become more and more true. It's one of those things that, becomes more true as society becomes more modern. Yeah. So finally, we get to Guy Debord's words. Finally, the first point that says, in societies where modern conditions of production prevail, all of life presents itself as an immense accumulation, a large gathering of spectacles. Everything that was directly lived has moved away into a representation. So, basically, what he's saying is that everything in our lives has become signs and signifiers of themselves. There's very little that is not mediated by screens right now in our society. And so it's an immense accumulation of spectacles, and spectacles is something that you look at. Plain and simple. It's like the glasses at the bottom of the screen. Spectacles are looking, and everything that was directly lived has moved away into a representation. So, it's kind of like when you distance learning. Distance learning. What we're doing right now is a primary example, is a great example of this reality of society of the spectacle, right? 2 months ago, we were in our classrooms doing learning in our classrooms, and there was media involved with that too. And you were in a room with your teacher learning something. Now we have the Society of the Spectacle version of education, where everything that was in school is now on your screen. Your teacher, your notes, your lectures, everything, homework, it's all online now. It's all everything about school is being mediated by technology at this point in time. And that's and so like COVID-19 has really sort of pushed an already very society of the spectacle-y society even further into this spectacle where we can't go outside, we can't hang out person to person, we can't give our friends a hug, so we'll give them a care react on Facebook. Okay, so up now we have a parody video, a news parody video that I made for this lecture, and we're gonna watch it now.
Action 5, cool news at 5. We tell you the news at 5 p.m. 5 p.m. Eastern Pacific Standard Time.
Welcome to Action 5, cool news at 5. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, and here's the news. Our top story, the world in crisis. Experts say that President Trump's handling of the pandemic has been completely disastrous, while MAGA hat brainwashees say that all they want to do is work and die for the, let me check my notes, for the economy. Great. More on that later. Up first, we have an exclusive interview with self-proclaimed Society of the Spectacle expert and a gamer who has played over, 200 hours of the inexplicably popular video game Animal Crossing. Please welcome, live from his living room, my oldest friend and sometimes enemy, me.
Hi. Hi, me. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here, me. Wow, that is just a lovely home you have there. I like all the decorations.
Yeah.
Yeah, that looks nice.
Well, you don't want to know some of the things that I had to do to get this furniture, I'll tell you.
I don't know what you're talking about. Wait, are you sitting in front of a TV?
I'm in my living room.
No, that's your bedroom.
No, this is my living room.
Is your living room in your TV?
I mean, my TV is in my living room, if that's what you're asking.
It's not. It's
Listen,
not.
man.
Is this that game? Is this that animal?
Yes. This is the game. But this is also Society of the Spectacle.
That brings me to my first question. Our viewers are dying to know, what exactly is Society of the Spectacle?
That's a great question, me. Thanks for asking me. And I'm not just saying this because I don't know how to answer your question, so I'm going to just buy some time till I can formulate in my head a response that will definitely not answer your question.
Wait, are you just going to talk about Animal Crossing this whole time?
Yes. Listen, man. Society of the Spectacle is everywhere. If I can find it in Animal Crossing, you can find it in news.
Really? Okay. All right. What?
Look, let me just show you my photo album. Let me tell you what I've been doing most of the time while I'm in quarantine.
Okay.
My living room. Very nice. I got a pet finally.
Is that a turtle?
Do some exercise.
You don't
just kinda
exercise.
hang out. The hangout room. Let me show you the Zen room.
Whoa.
Sorry, that was a little bit too private.
Was that you pooping?
So here's my
You just
bedroom.
showed kids a picture of yourself
Fish
pooping.
themed. And it's also my workroom. Just a nice place to chill out.
You're wasting my time here. This is a
And
waste
what?
of...
What? No, I'm talking about Society of the Spectacle. Come on. Look
Really?
at this. Look at this. This is life. I've been living life. No.
No, you have been living
No,
a lie on a time
Listen,
waster.
Time was created by economists to make people work more.
Sure,
Okay?
sure.
I can
Okay,
spend my time doing this. Look.
okay.
Look at all the things I've done. Oh, this is Yoshi's Island.
We're not even on
Island.
Animal Crossing anymore. This is just a Nintendo ad? Is that... Are you paid by Nintendo?
See? I'm picking up shells.
This
That's
looks
pretty fun.
boring. No, it's boring.
Talking to a scammer.
A what?
Bought some art off of him.
Oh my
and he put
god.
it in the museum.
Wow. Really?
Yeah. Dude's a scammer. It's good to know that kind of thing.
Oh my god. I just don't care. I
Here's
don't
one of my
care.
neighbors. I know you don't care, okay? But I'm just gonna show you Society of the Spectacle right here.
Fine.
That was the museum.
This is
So
Society
this
of the
is what I
Spectacle,
made
huh?
in the museum. Check it out. Those are my friends.
No, no.
That's my pterodactyl.
None of this is real, you know.
Trees of all varieties.
This is just ones and zeros.
Exercise ball. And there's that Mary girl.
Oh my god. This seems like such a waste of time.
I'm giving you a taste. See? This is good for kids.
No. Kids should not be
Kids
playing this
should be
game.
playing this game.
No, kids should be doing their homework and
All right,
reading
whatever.
study books
See, that's the
and
camera
listening
Landed
to
on
their
my
parents
side.
and doing chores.
Weird dude.
Okay, all right. I gotta cut this short. I gotta cut this segment short. I just have one more
Hello?
question for you. Just one more question. Why do you spend so much time playing this asinine game?
Because it's so much fun, Dad.
You know, you could be doing something more worthwhile with your time, something more productive, like taxes.
Okay,
Hey. You just called me a boomer? Listen, man. I am a millennial. Get that straight. Don't disparage me like that. And by the way, I brought you on the show to talk about Society of the Spectacle. And so far, you're not...
I am talking about Society of the Spectacle. Come on.
No. You are talking about a stupid video game that I don't understand why it's so popular.
Listen, dude, I know you play. We own the same Switch. Why? Yeah. I know you play this game. Why are you dissing it? Why? Why? You want
Can
to
we-
be more mature? Come on.
Is this really you're gonna play that card?
Why? Yeah. Why? Okay. Why? So why? Tell me. Why won't you visit my island, dude?
Okay, all right.
Come on.
We gotta end this interview. It's been
Bro.
great having you.
We both play this game. We know that.
Well,
Why haven't you visited to my island? I texted you my.
I've been busy with the
You
news.
think you're better? You think you're better than me?
Well, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
You think you're better than me?
Okay.
Sure. Okay.
Can we cut his mic? Can we cut the feed?
Is this thing on?
All right. Thanks for being here. It was so much fun. Gonna have you on again real soon. Okay. Whew. Wow. Okay, so what did we learn today? Well, we learned that some people choose to spend all their time being unproductive and just kind of twiddling their thumbs on a video game that costs $60, and it's a waste of money and it's a waste of time. And what else? We also learned that so-called experts sometimes don't know what exactly they're talking about. And wow, and we're out of time for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Here's what else you need to know today. As gas prices plummet, fossil fuel industries scramble to assert their legitimacy. And after constant derision towards Andrew Yang and his supporters, Americans embrace universal basic income. But is it too late? Action 5, Cool News at 5, is made by Lisa Belton, Theo Tobin, Rachel Quester, Ann Deanne, Lindsay Garrison, Paige Cowett, Annie Brown, Alexandra Leon, Larissa Anderson, Andy Mills, John Cena, Claire Tennisgetter, Michael Simon Johnson, Roger Stone, Brad Fisher, Karen Whiteson, Wendy Dorr, Chris Wood, Jessica Chung, Alexander Snaki, Luke Vanderklook, and Don Johnson. Our executive producer is Bob Freeman Weinstein. Join us tomorrow at 5 for the news at 5. And we're back. Okay. So, I hope that was funny. I hope you guys enjoyed that little skit, a little news parody. I interviewed myself. As you can tell, I'm a big fan of Animal Crossing. I've been playing the game since it came out on the GameCube when I was a kid, and I just think it's so much fun, really relaxing, and the New Horizons couldn't have come out at a better time, honestly, because you get to go outside and have friends and stuff, and it's all very sweet and twee, and you can do it from your home, or portable on your Switch. And yeah, so this concludes the lecture on Society of the Spectacle. Hopefully now you know or have an idea of kind of what it is. It's society mediated by media, society through screens, through media. And the last thing that I wanted to point out about Society of the Spectacle is that it is a function of, at this point, it is a function of capitalism. So that's just something to be aware of, that people are making money off of you living online, on YouTube or Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, all that stuff. People are making money off of it. So here on this slide, we have some links. These three are kind of part of the lecture, and then these three are kind of my inspiration for the Action 5 News at 5 clip parody. So I'm parodying the New York Times podcast. This episode actually has a lot to do with Society of the Spectacle. It's a great example of it. How it's about how we mourn in the age of COVID. This is an old interview with Quentin Tarantino that I based The Fighting off of, and this is where I pulled the art assets, and from cartoon online. And yeah, I bet you have some questions, so jot them down, and I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability during the discussion later. We have the rest of this slideshow is the text from the rest of the first 5 points of the Guy Debord text, which kind of elucidate things, make things more clear, or kind of go deeper into that first point. Where is it? Right here. But if you understand this first point, you have a pretty good understanding of Society of the Spectacle. What I would encourage you to do, I don't know if your teacher is going to make this like a graded assignment, but you can watch this, you can watch this, or listen to this, or even rewatch the lecture, and just kind of take some notes on how is this functioning as signification, what's the sign, what's being signified, as well as how is this a function of society of the spectacle. And you can watch these clips or listen to this podcast, or watch your Netflix or YouTube or whatever shows or TikTok that you like to, or what's it, Venny Girl, Varsity Girl? Anyways, you can watch anything that you would watch anyways, or just live your life and keep like a little sheet of paper in your pocket and pull it out and take notes on, is this society of the spectacle? How is it functioning as society of the spectacle? How might people, corporations, be making money off of me engaging with society in this? Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed the lecture. I hope I was clear and coherent, and you were able to understand what I was talking about. This is my first time doing anything like this, so yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it kind of opened your third eye in a way about our culture. All right, bye.